My friends, every generation produces a handful of men and women who refuse to be defined by their circumstances. They are not necessarily the strongest, the wealthiest, or the most gifted, but they are the most determined. They are the ones who decide that average is not their destiny. And I tell you today, this message is for the 1% who dare to want success. You see, success is not an accident. It is not a lottery ticket you stumble upon. Success is the deliberate alignment of vision with discipline, of faith with action, of pain with perseverance. Think about the farmer who wakes before the sun day after day, planting seeds in dry ground, believing rain will come. He is not applauded, not celebrated, but he is faithful. And in due season, the harvest rewards his endurance. That's the picture of success, ordinary people doing extraordinary things simply because they never gave up. History itself whispers this truth. Every great leader, every innovator, every pioneer you admire, at some point they were told it was impossible, but they pressed on not because the path was easy, but because the dream inside them was greater than the doubt around them. Now, here is the challenge. The 99% will complain about change, but the 1% will become the change. The 99% will wait for opportunities, but the 1% will create them. The 99% will say someday, but the 1% will say today. My heart tells me that some of you listening right now are part of that 1%. You may not feel it yet. You may not see the full picture yet. But deep inside, you know you were born for more than survival. You were born to make an impact, to lift others as you rise, to leave a mark that outlives you. Do not despise your small beginnings. Not allow your current struggles to define your permanent identity. Every mountain is climbed one step at a time. Every river is crossed one stroke at a time. Your responsibility is not to be perfect. Your responsibility is to persevere. I want you to lift your eyes today and believe this: your future is bigger than your past. Your potential is greater than your pain. And your destiny is stronger than your doubt. So rise, take responsibility for your life. Refuse to wait for permission. Refuse to settle for mediocrity. Become the one who proves that greatness is not reserved for the privileged few, but for the disciplined, the faithful, and the courageous. Because success is not for everyone. It is for those who decide. And if you decide today, then hear me clearly. This is for the 1% who want success. Success is intentional, not accidental. Let me tell you something that most people never truly understand. Success does not fall from the sky. It does not come to you by luck, by chance, or by accident. No one wakes up one morning, stumbles out of bed, and suddenly finds themselves at the top of the mountain. No, my friend, success is intentional. It is deliberate. It is designed. Think of an architect. Before a single stone is laid, before a single wall is raised, the blueprint has already been drawn. The building does not just happen. It is carefully crafted, measured, planned, and executed. Success works the very same way. If you want to build a life of significance, if you want to build a future of impact, you cannot just hope it shows up. You must design it, you must plan it, and then you must commit yourself to the hard work of building it brick by brick. This is where many people miss it. They confuse activity with intention. They wake up busy, running here and there, chasing every distraction. But business is not success. Activity without purpose is wasted energy. Success demands more than movement. It demands meaning. Every decision, every habit, every sacrifice must be tied to a vision of where you are going. I want you to think about a farmer. When he puts a seed into the ground, he is not hoping for luck. He does not say, maybe one day this seed will magically turn into a harvest. No, he understands a principle. Whatever he sows with intention, he will reap with reward. He prepares the soil, he waters the ground, he protects the seed, he acts with faith and with patience, knowing the harvest is coming. Success follows the same principle. It is the harvest of intentional sowing, day after day, choice after choice, sacrifice after sacrifice. Now, here is the uncomfortable truth. The majority of people live their lives by default, not by design. They wait for circumstances to change. They wait for an opportunity to knock. They wait for someone to rescue them from their own excuses. But the 1%, the ones who rise above the noise, they don't wait. They decide. They take control of what they can control. They may not control the weather, but they can plant in the season. They may not control the economy, but they can discipline their habits. They may not control what others say about them, but they can control the belief they carry inside themselves. When you study the lives of those who shaped history, you discover this truth again and again. Nothing about their success was accidental. It was intentional. Nelson Mandela did not endure 27 years in prison and became a leader by accident. He chose forgiveness. He chose vision. He chose the higher road. That was the intention. Thomas Edison did not create the light bulb by stumbling into brilliance. He experimented thousands of times, failing again and again, but he was intentional about his purpose. That was design. Rosa Parks did not sit down on that bus by accident. It was a deliberate act of courage that shifted the course of history. That was the intention. What about you? What is the vision that burns inside you? What blueprint have you drawn for your future? Or are you still waiting for a chance to decide your destiny? Hear me clearly, life will never hand you success. Life will hand you opportunities, challenges, and seasons, but what you do with them is entirely up to you. Your choices are the architects of your destiny. I know there are people listening right now who feel stuck, who feel like nothing is moving in their favor. Let me encourage you. You are not stuck because of your circumstances. You are stuck because of a lack of intention. When you decide deep in your heart that your life will not be wasted, that your purpose will not be buried, and that your dream will not die, everything begins to shift. The moment intention enters your spirit, discipline follows, focus follows, persistence follows. Success is not mysterious. It is predictable. Just like a seed in the soil produces after its kind. If you sow intention, you reap success. If you sow clarity, you reap direction. If you sow discipline, you reap results. But if you sow carelessness, if you sow laziness, if you sow excuses, then you will reap regret. That is the law of life, and no one escapes it. You may ask, but what if I fail? My answer is this: failure itself is not the enemy. The true enemy is living without intention. Because even failure, when faced with determination, becomes a stepping stone. Every mistake teaches, every setback shapes, every challenge refines. But drifting through life without direction, without clarity, without a blueprint, that is the true tragedy. Success will never be delivered to your doorstep. It is not a package arriving by accident. It is not a lottery ticket waiting to be scratched. It is a garden waiting to be cultivated, a building waiting to be designed, a destiny waiting to be claimed, and only the intentional will ever taste it. Ordinary people create extraordinary impact. When we think of greatness, too often we imagine it belongs only to the chosen few, the ones born into privilege, the ones with special gifts, the ones whose names already echo in the halls of history. But let me remind you today, extraordinary impact has never been reserved for the extraordinary. Time and time again, the world has been changed by men and women who looked very ordinary on the outside, yet carried an uncommon fire within. Consider the mother raising her children in a small home with little money but endless love. She may never make headlines, but she is building leaders inside her living room. She is shaping values, planting seeds of character, teaching resilience. That is an extraordinary impact. She looks ordinary, yet her influence stretches into generations she will never see. Think of the young man working 2 jobs, not because it is easy, but because he refuses to let his family go hungry. There is nothing glamorous about his routine, nothing majestic about his sweat, and yet his perseverance speaks louder than words. That kind of dedication changes the atmosphere of an entire household. That is an extraordinary impact. History is full of names we now celebrate. Every one of them began as someone ordinary. Abraham Lincoln was born in a log cabin, self-educated, mocked for his lack of polish, and yet his vision to preserve unity reshaped a nation. Mother Teresa was just a small woman walking the crowded streets of Calcutta, but her compassion turned poverty into a platform for dignity. Martin Luther King Jr. was a preacher from Atlanta, not a king, not a president. Yet his dreams stirred the conscience of the world. Ordinary beginnings, extraordinary outcomes. What makes these stories powerful is not talent alone, nor resources, nor connections. It is conviction. Conviction is the spark that turns ordinary people into extraordinary forces. When you believe that your life matters, when you believe that your actions carry weight, you begin to live differently. You rise earlier, you work harder. You give deeper because you understand that even the smallest choices ripple far beyond you. The problem is many people disqualify themselves before they even begin. They look at their lack of education, their lack of money, their lack of status, and they conclude, I am not enough. But let me tell you, this greatness has never required permission. Extraordinary impact does not ask where you started. It only asks whether you are willing to start. Ordinary people create extraordinary impact because they refuse to believe the lie that they are powerless. They may not control everything, but they control their effort. They control their attitude. They control the way they respond to hardship. And in those choices, they unleash a power far greater than circumstances. Think about a candle. It is small, fragile, and easily overlooked. But when the night grows darkest, That candle can light a path for others to follow. One small flame can spark another, and then another, until an entire room is filled with light. That is how ordinary people create extraordinary impact. They do not wait to be the sun. They shine with whatever light they have, right where they are. You may not see yourself as extraordinary right now. You may look at your life and say, "There is nothing special about me." But do not underestimate the reach of your influence. The words you speak to a child today could shape their confidence for years to come. The kindness you show to a stranger could restore their faith in humanity. The stand you take for what is right could inspire someone else to find their courage. Ordinary actions, extraordinary impact. We live in a world hungry for heroes, but the true heroes are often unseen. They are teachers who stay late to encourage a struggling student. They are nurses who comfort patients when no one else is watching. They are community leaders who fight for justice when it costs them everything. They may never trend, they may never go viral, but their impact cannot be erased. Extraordinary impact is not about being famous, it is about being faithful. It is not about applause, it is about alignment with purpose. It is not about doing everything, it is about doing the one thing you can with all your heart. That is where the power lies. You do not need to be perfect to create extraordinary impact. You only need to be willing to act, willing to believe, willing to persevere when others give up. Ordinary people who carry this spirit cannot be ignored because they change the course of lives around them. They change families, communities, nations, and often they never even realize how far their influence has reached. 1% mindset. There is a mindset that separates the dreamers from the doers, the talkers from the builders, the majority from the few who rise above. I call it the 1% mindset. It is not about money. It is not about privilege. It is not about luck. It is about the way you think, the way you choose, the way you live when the crowd goes one way and your destiny calls you another. The 1% mindset is what makes a person look at challenges and see opportunity. Where most see obstacles, they see stepping stones. Where most see problems, they see possibilities. It is not that life treats them any better. It is that their perspective trains them to respond differently. They don't wait for a perfect situation. They create progress in the middle of imperfection. You can always spot the difference between the 99% and the 1%. The 99% complain about how hard things are. The 1% embrace the difficulty because they understand growth lives inside resistance. The 99% wait for someone else to lead, but the 1% take responsibility and step into leadership even when it is uncomfortable. The 99% talk about someday, but the 1% begin with today. Think of a runner training for a marathon. The majority stop when the pain sets in. Their legs burn, their chest tightens, and they say, "This is enough." But the one who has the 1% mindset pushes through that wall. They know on the other side of pain is strength. On the other side of endurance is capacity. They are not superhuman. They are simply unwilling to let discomfort dictate their destiny. History reveals this pattern clearly. Look at the Wright brothers. At a time when humanity believed flight was impossible, they refused to accept the voice of the 99%. They were mocked, dismissed, ridiculed. But their mindset said, if we can imagine it, we can attempt it. And because of that mindset, the skies are now filled with airplanes. Ordinary men with the 1% mindset redefined what was possible. Or think about Elon Musk in our generation. He faced failure after failure, with rockets exploding, businesses nearly collapsing, and the world calling him crazy. The 99% would have walked away, but the 1% mindset does not retreat to failure. It studies, it adjusts, it tries again. Today, his persistence has changed industries, not because he was immune to failure, but because he thought differently about it. The 1% mindset is about ownership. It says, my life is my responsibility. It refuses to blame the government, the economy, the family, or the environment. It acknowledges those realities, but it never surrenders to them. Because the 1% know this truth: as long as I am alive, I still have a choice. And as long as I have a choice, I still have power. This mindset requires sacrifice. You cannot think like the 1% and live like the 99%. You cannot expect uncommon results with common habits. The 1% wake up earlier. They train harder. They study deeper. They risk more. They are not reckless, but they are relentless. They understand that convenience produces comfort, but sacrifice produces greatness. And let me remind you, this mindset is not inherited, it is chosen. Every day you wake up with two options: live like the 99% or step into the 1%. No one can make that decision for you. The difference is not in your background, your degree, or your connections. The difference is in your decisions. Imagine a young woman who dreams of becoming a doctor. 99% of her peers may drop out when classes get tough, when finances grow tight, when stress overwhelms them. But she keeps pressing on. She studies through the night, works part-time to pay her way, cries some nights but never quits. Years later, she wears the white coat, saving lives. What gave her the edge was not privilege. It was the 1% mindset. This mindset demands discipline. It demands resilience. It demands the courage to be different. Stand alone if necessary. Because when you carry the 1% mindset, you will not always be understood. People will call you obsessed, too ambitious, unrealistic. But the truth is, those with the 1% mindset are simply unwilling to die without giving everything they were created to give. The 1% mindset is not about arrogance. It is about responsibility. It is about looking at your potential and refusing to waste it. It is about waking up every day and saying, I may not control the world, but I will control myself. I will control my work ethic, thoughts, my choices, my actions. That is the mindset that changes not only your life, but the lives of everyone connected to you. Your struggle is not your identity. Too many people today are walking around wearing their pain as if it is their permanent name. They have allowed failure to become their label, disappointment to become their definition, and struggle to become their identity. But hear me clearly, your struggle is not your identity. Yes, you may be going through hardship right now. Yes, the storm may be raging, the bills may be piling, the pressure may be suffocating, but what you are going through is not who you are. Struggle is an event, not a definition. It is a chapter, not the whole book. Think about the butterfly. Before it ever spreads its wings in beauty, it is trapped in a dark cocoon, struggling, fighting, pressing its way out. If someone were to see it in that stage, they might call it weak, ugly, unfinished. But the cocoon is not its identity, it is its process. The struggle is what strengthens its wings so it can fly. Without the struggle, there would be no flight. Without the fight, there would be no beauty. Your life is no different. The struggles you are facing today are not there to define you. They are there to refine you. They are shaping your character, sharpening your resilience, building a strength in you that comfort could never give. But here is the tragedy. Many people stop in the middle of the cocoon and assume that is all they will ever be. They allow a divorce to define their worth. They allow a business failure to define their capacity. They allow the rejection of others to define their value. They begin to say, this is who I am now, broken, defeated, unwanted. But that is a lie. Your identity is greater than your struggle. Consider Joseph from history. Betrayed by his brothers, thrown into a pit, sold as a slave, falsely accused, imprisoned for years. If anyone had the right to say, my life is over, I am nothing but a victim, it was Joseph. But he refused to let struggle define him. He kept his integrity, kept his faith, kept his vision alive. And one day, the same man who was chained in a dungeon was elevated to rule in a palace. The struggle did not define him, it prepared him. Or think of Oprah Winfrey, born into poverty, abused as a child, facing rejection after rejection. By all accounts, her struggle should have become her identity, but she refused to be defined by it. She chose to rise, to learn to grow, to believe that her voice had value. Today, she stands as one of the most influential women in the world, not because she had no struggle, but because she understood that struggle was not her identity. You see, identity is powerful. How you see yourself determines how you carry yourself. If you see yourself as broken, you will live broken. If you see yourself as defeated, you will act defeated. If you see yourself as unworthy, you will sabotage your own future. But the moment you shift your vision and understand that you are more than your struggle, everything changes. Yes, you may have failed, but you are not a failure. Yes, you may have been rejected, but you are not worthless. Yes, you may have lost, but you are not lost. There is more inside you than the pain around you. There is purpose inside you that no struggle can erase. Think of a diamond. Before it shines, it is hidden deep in the earth, covered in dirt, pressured from all sides. If you looked at it then, you might dismiss it as just another rock. But the struggle of pressure is what transforms it. The heat, the weight, the resistance, none of it defines the diamond, it reveals it. Your life is the same. The pressure you feel right now is not burying you, it is shaping you. The danger comes when you start speaking the language of your struggle. When you begin to say, I will never get out of this, this is just who I am, nothing will ever change. That language locks you in chains that were never meant to hold you. But when you begin to say, this is hard, but it will not define me. This is painful, but it will not break me. This is heavy, but it will not stop me. Then you rise above it. Your struggle is temporary. Your identity is eternal. Your struggle is a season. Your identity is your destiny. Struggles pass, but what you carry inside you, the gift, the vision, the greatness, that remains. And if you can hold on to that truth, you will walk through fire and come out refined, not destroyed. Decide and rise. Every great turning point in history began not with chance, not with luck, not with circumstances aligning perfectly, but with a decision, a simple, powerful decision made by someone who refused to stay where they were. At the heart of every story of transformation, every story of success, there is always this truth: nothing changes until you decide. Life will give you 1,000 reasons to wait, to hesitate, to postpone. Conditions will never be perfect. The resources will never seem enough. The timing will never feel convenient. But the difference between those who remain stuck and those who rise is not the absence of obstacles. It is the presence of a decision. Decision is power. It is the invisible line between mediocrity and greatness, between dreaming and doing, between wishing and becoming. When you decide, you activate something inside you that no outside force can control. You tell the world, you tell your doubts, you tell your fears, this is the direction of my life, and I will not turn back. Think of the prodigal son in the ancient story. Lost, broken, feeding pigs, far from his father's house. His situation was hopeless, his dignity gone. But then he decided, he said, I will arise and go to my father. That decision shifted everything. He was still in the pig pen when he made it, still dirty, still hungry, still ashamed. But the moment he decided, his journey back to restoration had already begun. That is what decision does. It doesn't wait for you to be strong, it makes you strong. It doesn't wait for resources to show up, it draws resources to you. It doesn't wait for opportunities to knock, it positions you to create them. Decision is the catalyst of destiny, but decision alone is not enough. You must rise, because a decision without action is only a wish dressed in fancy words. Rising means taking the first step even when the path is unclear. Rising means lifting yourself out of excuses, out of fear, out of the comfort zone that has kept you small. Rising means moving forward, even if you tremble while you walk. I think of Rosa Parks on that bus in Montgomery. She decided in her heart that she was done being silent, done being pushed to the back. But her power was not in the thought alone, it was in her rise. The simple act of refusing to move sparked a fire that shook a nation. Decision set the course, but rising created the impact. Or look at Nelson Mandela. He decided that apartheid could not have the last word in South Africa. But when prison came, when decades passed, when hope seemed gone, he rose anyway. He walked out of that cell not as a bitter man, but as a leader ready to unify a nation. Decision gave him vision, rising gave him influence. And what about you? What decisions are you postponing because fear has convinced you to wait? How many times have you told yourself, one day I'll start? One day I'll change, one day I'll rise, while the days keep slipping away. You don't need another excuse. You need a decision. You don't need perfect conditions. You need courage to rise. There is greatness in you that will never see the light of day until you decide. There is vision in you that will never breathe until you rise. There are people waiting for the gift you carry, but they will never receive it until you take responsibility and move. Deciding and rising is not about ignoring fear. It is about refusing to let fear be the loudest voice in your life. It is about looking fear in the face and walking forward anyway. It is about saying, I will not wait for approval. I will not wait for permission. I will not wait for everything to line up. I choose to rise now. Some of you listening to me right now are standing at the edge of your next season, but the only thing holding you back is indecision. You've prayed, you've planned, you've dreamed, but you have not decided. You have not risen. And until you do, nothing changes. This is the moment to choose. This is the moment to step up. This is the moment to rise above excuses, rise above fear, rise above doubt. Declare with your life that you will not settle for less than you were created for. Decision is the seed. Rising is the harvest. Together they create destiny. My friends, we have walked through truths that separate the ordinary from the extraordinary. We have seen that success is intentional, not accidental, that you must design it, plan it, and pursue it with discipline. We have discovered that ordinary people create extraordinary impact when they believe their lives matter and act with conviction. We have learned that the 1% mindset is not about privilege, but about responsibility. A mindset that chooses to rise where others complain, to persist where others quit. We have faced the reality that your struggle is not your identity, that what you are going through is not who you are, but a process shaping you for what is ahead. And we have seen the ultimate key, that nothing changes until you decide and rise, for decision is the spark and rising is the fire that ignites destiny. So now, The question is not whether greatness is possible. The question is whether you will choose it. The question is whether you will believe it. The question is whether you will rise above fear, above excuses, above doubt, and declare with your life that you belong to that 1% who wants success. This is not about being better than others. It is about being better than the version of yourself that settles for less. It is about refusing to let your potential die unused, your vision die unseen, your purpose die unfulfilled. The world is not waiting for perfect people. It is waiting for willing people, ordinary men and women who decide to be intentional, who embrace the 1% mindset, who rise from struggle, and who take full responsibility for their destiny. The future does not belong to the strongest. It does not belong to the luckiest. It belongs to those who decide, those who believe, those who persevere. It belongs to the ones who, in the face of fear, still step forward. It belongs to the ones who understand that success is not promised, but it is possible for those willing to pay the price. This is the call. This is the challenge. This is the moment to stand, to act, to rise. Because success is not for everyone. Success is for the few who dare. Success is for the disciplined. Success is for the resilient. Success is for the courageous. Success is for the 1% who want it.